Trump administration has assassinated Iran's top military commander, Major General Qasem Soleimani, and he did so through a drone strike, an airstrike specifically near the Baghdad International Airport. Obviously, this is in Iraq. Soleimani led the Quds force of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, and as we all know, after Donald Trump had pulled out of the Iran nuclear deal, his administration decided to list the Islamic Revolutionary Guard as a terrorist organization. Trump has been escalating tensions with Iran from the beginning of his administration. And the very first step that he took was pulling out of the Iran nuclear deal, a deal that Iran was complying with, a deal that involved other world leaders, and it of course included Czechs, but Trump decided, no, I'm gonna pull out. Now, the Department of Defense issued a statement claiming responsibility for Soleimani's killing, saying that he and the Quds force were responsible for the deaths of hundreds of American and coalition service members and the wounding of thousands more. Now, they also claimed that Soleimani posed as an imminent threat. However, there has been absolutely no intelligence shared with the press to prove that point. Also, this was not authorized by Congress, and in order for the administration to follow through with this type of assassination without congressional authorization, they need to prove that there was an imminent threat. There has been no proof, although the State Department and the Trump administration continue to issue such statements.
Yeah. Let me be clear, I don't believe them. Do I believe that there was danger in the area? Yeah, it's the Middle East. And so Iran and the United States have been going back and forth. You could say tit for tat, but that really is understating it. We did have a US defense contractor killed and a couple of troops wounded recently. Our retaliation for that involved killing 25 people and wounding 50. So that is a massive and arguably disproportionate strike. But that did not take us to the brink of war, and we were measured in our coverage of that, saying, sure, it's a good idea, but I said at the time, look, we do have to have some response to a contractor being killed and our troops being wounded. The question is, what kind of response? Now, and in the meanwhile, obviously, we had the riot, or however you want to characterize it, at the embassy. No one was killed there, but it was a scary situation. Now, our response has not been proportionate. Again, we now killed a top Iranian general, which is clearly going to cause massive retaliation and perhaps bring us to war. So later, actually, in fact, right now, the Republicans are all claiming they made us do it and it's all their fault. Half the media is backing them. The Democrats are tepid. The reality is we pulled out of the deal and it was Trump who did it. It was Trump who assassinated their top general. Now, do you think that they might then target our top generals or our top officials? Well, that's what we're concerned about. And that's what a smart person would take into account before they went around assassinating generals of sovereign nations.
So I want to get into the details of the possible ramifications in just a minute, but before I do so, Donald Trump did issue a brief statement to the press, and here is his so-called justification for going through with this assassination.
Last night, at my direction, the United States military successfully executed a flawless precision strike that killed the #1 terrorist anywhere in the world, Qasem Soleimani. Soleimani was plotting imminent and sinister attacks on American diplomats and military personnel, but we caught him in the act and terminated him. Under my leadership, America's policy is unambiguous to terrorists who harm or intend to harm any American. We will find you, we will eliminate you, we will always protect our diplomats, service members, all Americans, and our allies.
So the line that I'm hearing from people who are defending Donald Trump's actions and statements coming from Trump's own administration have to do with how Soleimani was a bad guy. He was a bad guy, he was a terrible guy. Very similar to the type of propaganda that we heard prior to the preemptive war and the preemptive invasion into Iraq, right? Saddam Hussein is a bad guy, he's a bad guy, he's a bad guy. But here's the thing, the United States works with bad guys all the time. Mohammed bin Salman of Saudi Arabia murdered. He ordered the murder of a US resident, a Washington Post journalist, Jamal Khashoggi. And what did Donald Trump do? First, he tried to help the Saudis cover for that. And when that didn't work, he made statements about how we have a great financial relationship with Saudi Arabia, and that's all that really matters to him, right? In fact, we're helping them fight their war and carry out their genocide in Yemen right now.
See, this is why I get frustrated with the media, because I'll go further than that. So the main justification they give for assassinating Soleimani is he helped the Shia insurgency in Iraq, and that killed our troops. Well, there's a lot of truth to that, and so was I concerned about that? Absolutely. In fact, we were more concerned than anybody else. That's why we said don't go in Iraq, because insurgencies will rise, militias will rise, and they will kill our guys. And it doesn't make any sense to put them there when Iraq had not attacked us, even though Saddam Hussein was a bad guy. Kim Jong-un's a bad guy. We didn't assassinate him or his top general. Why? Because it would start a disastrous war between North Korea, us, South Korea, Japan, etc. See, those are what smart people do. Dumb people go, oh, bad guy. And they create a giant mess like Iraq and what we're about to create. But on the Saudis, well, if the main justification was the insurgency in Iraq, the Saudis funded the Sunni insurgency in Iraq, and they helped kill thousands of our troops. So now they say, well, look, it wasn't technically the Saudi government, it was just Saudi billionaires. All right, let's find them and kill them all. Execute them, assassinate them, drone strikes all over Saudi Arabia. Do you agree? I mean, it's not my logic. It's Trump's logic, and all the media goes along, oh yeah, Soleimani, a bad guy. So I mean, you had to kill him, you had to murder him, right? Okay, well then do we have to murder all those Saudis who funded the Sunni insurgency? Okay, if you are principled on that, you would say yes, let's go kick the living crap out of Saudi Arabia. Oh, but they give us oil for a little less than other countries do. And Donald Trump said, even before he became president, they buy my apartments for $40, $50 million. Am I supposed to not like them? So as long as Donald Trump is getting rich and we get oil a little cheaper, apparently our principles don't mean a damn thing. So don't tell me that you did it based on the insurgencies when there's this massive, giant hypocrisy where the Saudis kill us over and over and over again. You guys remember who did 9/11? 15 out of the 19 hijackers were Saudis. Did we ever hit Saudi Arabia? No, we went and kissed their ass after 9/11. Why? Because Republicans said, hey, listen, man, they give us oil a little cheap, and they don't really give it to us, ExxonMobil, etc., right? So as long as our corporations are getting rich, you can murder American troops all day long, according to the Republicans. But hey, you know what? Donald Trump wants to seem like a tough guy, take your mind off of impeachment, maybe get reelected, like he said Obama wanted to do. He said, oh, Obama wanted to get reelected, that's why he's gonna attack Iran. But Obama didn't do that. Donald Trump did do that. And so don't buy into his BS rationale, which is what I see all over television.
Yeah, and there's the concerns about the insurgency. There's also, as he stated in the video, not just that he was planning something, they caught him in the act. He was doing something right then. And if you're holding your breath for details, you should take a breath, because it's never gonna come, you're never gonna hear anything. It's sort of quaint, actually, that, I mean, from everything that I've read, it was clearly illegal. They don't have the justification to do what they did. But the fact that they would care at all seems sort of old fashioned. Like if he just came out and said, yeah, there's no justification, but I did it. What, are the Republicans gonna vote to remove him? Are they gonna allow charges to go through against him? Like what would the consequences be?
There'd be nothing.
Pelosi probably wouldn't even add them into the articles of impeachment. There would be no consequences. So I like this nod to the way things used to be.
That's such a great point. Now, there are real consequences, and those consequences are for Americans abroad. And I'm not just talking about members of the military. There are diplomats and other US workers abroad who could be targeted as a result of this. And so let's go to a CNN video. This is Samantha Vinogard. She's an analyst for CNN, but she actually served as a national security advisor under the Obama administration. I think she makes a pretty good point here. Take a look.
All American citizens are now walking prime targets for Iranian retaliation. The Department of Defense put out an important statement last night after this operation, indicating what appears to be declassified intelligence that Qasem Soleimani was responsible for planning additional attacks against Americans, but also that he approved the attack against the US embassy in Baghdad. So it looks like they were declassifying intelligence on that front, and going forward, we should to really expect more of the same. The IRG Quds Force has demonstrated its willingness and intent to strike American citizens, to strike American diplomats who are afforded protections under international law. So in addition to the force protection measures needed for American service members, I am equally as focused on the American diplomatic corps, as well as all of the contractors that work for the U.S. government and other American citizens, not just in the Middle East, but around the world.
So I thought she made a good point specifically when it came to how this escalation and this essentially a call for war is really threatening the lives of Americans abroad. But look, it shouldn't just be about Americans. How many civilians in the Middle East have already died because of US aggression? And so they shouldn't be an afterthought. There are gonna be countless civilians who die if we engage in war with Iran. And don't buy the nonsense that I've been hearing over and over again in the corporate press today about how if Iran decides to respond militarily, it'll be an easy and quick war.
Oh my God.
That is an actual point that I've heard people make. It is insane, and I'm gonna provide examples of that later in the show today.
I think they accidentally loaded the teleprompters from 2003, actually.
It's crazy.
And so they said we'd be greeted as liberators. Iraq war would take only a couple of weeks. Decades later, here we are. By the way, this has all happened in Iraq because the mess we created in Iraq. Why? Because we said Saddam Hussein was a bad guy. He was. Did that make the Iraq war logical? No, it did not. And here we are again. Look, credit where credit is due. I'm glad that CNN had her on and she said that. That's a very good point. But you'll hardly ever see it anywhere else. And certainly out of the idiot Republicans, you'll never see this obvious acknowledgement. So we get to call people terrorists all the time. And by the way, everybody's doing it. I don't know, it's not covered by American media, but Turkey calls the Kurds terrorists, the Kurds call the Turks terrorists, Iran calls the Sunnis terrorists, the Sunnis call Iran terrorists, and it goes around and around. And so, what does that mean? Well, okay, we said Soleimani, he might be the general of a sovereign nation, but apparently there are no international laws anymore, so we just murder him. And then the idiot Republicans sit back and go, okay, well, I guess we're done with that. No, we're not done with that. They're going to retaliate and they're gonna call us terrorists and they're gonna kill us. So look, I'm worried to death about the embassy in Iraq now. Trump, the moron, is like, oh, I voted at Benghazi. I'm so strong, I'm so strong. No, you didn't. Now that embassy is in great, great peril.
There are 16,000 US employees at that embassy.
God, I fear for them. Get them out, get them out, get them out right now. And now we're sending 3,500 new troops in. What, to be sitting ducks? What are they gonna do? Fight the entire country of Iran? Are we going to war or are we not going to war? And guys, they're gonna kill our personnel, they're gonna kill our troops way more than they would have before, way more. And when they do, these Pompeo lying on CNN saying, oh, we stopped an attack that could have killed dozens, maybe hundreds of American troops. Really, where's your evidence? No evidence, he's lying. And you say, oh, Cenk, can you really say that? I already saw this movie. It was called the Iraq War. Everything was a lie. And the press was like, oh, I don't know. The Secretary of State, and then Condoleezza Rice at the time, National Security Advisor, she said it, a mushroom cloud, it could happen. So they said it, I bowed down, I bowed down. I do not bow down. They are liars. And they're gonna get our guys killed. Anna's right, they're also gonna get untold thousands of innocent civilians in the region killed. But look, if all you care about is Americans, I guarantee you they're in far greater peril today than they were yesterday. And so it's not one-sided. They get to counterattack. They get to also kill our civilians. And so now we should get out as soon as humanly possible, but instead we're bringing more people in to be sitting ducks for them to get killed.
Yeah, and just like a month or two after the media was, they were falling all over themselves to give Trump credit for ending the forever wars. He's anti-war, people, accept it. He's anti-war, just sending thousands more soldiers there. So you said that they were sitting ducks. I think it's a little bit more malicious even than that. It is convenient to people who want to start wars to have soldiers there because it's easy to kill soldiers when they're there. Super hard for the Quds Force to kill American soldiers in San Diego or Houston or Alaska, super difficult. But if you put them in Iraq, it's not that difficult. And honestly, it reminds me You know Edward Gallagher, the war criminal that Trump is so in love with?
Yeah.
One of the sickest things he did was he wanted to shoot Iraqis, but sometimes they were difficult to see. So he would expose his soldiers so that the other soldiers would start to shoot at them. And then when they expose themselves, he gets to shoot at them. But what if you could do that with thousands of soldiers? What if you put them in a place where they would inevitably get attacked? That would provide the rationale for anything you want, assassinations, bombings, whatever you want. Anytime you want to launch a war, you have the justification because you've placed it there. Effectively hostages, these people you say you support, you put in a position that greatly increases the chance that they'll be killed. And all of this, by the way, the rationale that was given for killing him was to stop an imminent threat. Against who? The Americans that are in Iraq, presumably. Take them out of Iraq. They'll be way, way easier to kill, and you'll save a ton of money in doing it.
Right, and I think it's also important to keep in mind that Iran is not, a single isolated actor in this entire case. Iran has its own allies. We're talking about Russia, we're talking about Syria. There are other countries involved. Our own allies have condemned Donald Trump's actions here in assassinating the top commander for Iran's military. So look, this is not good, and there are consequences and ramifications for our actions. And don't let anyone, either in the corporate press or the right wing, or even in the left wing, if you ever see it, claim that if you're not in favor of this war with Iran, or if you're not supportive of Donald Trump's aggression here, then you're anti-American, you're supporting the terrorists. I see them lodging these ridiculous insults and criticisms toward freshman progressive, representatives like Ilhan Omar, for instance. But no, if you actually care about America, if you actually care about supporting the troops, you don't put them in harm's way by engaging in this unnecessary war. And let's just remind you guys that Iran's military capability is very different from Iraq's military capability. We still have a president in Iraq. We didn't win, okay? Iran's military is 4 times the size.
So guys, when invariably, and I hope to God it never happens, but very likely it will, when Iran counterattacks and our personnel and soldiers and troops and perhaps diplomats are killed, it was Donald Trump's fault. Later they'll say, oh no, it was all Iran. It's their fault, they're boogeymen, they're terrorists, they're all terrible people, right? But the reality is, they didn't kill our top general. We killed their top general. They didn't break the peace deal, the nuclear deal that we had. And neither did Russia, neither did China, neither did Europe. We broke that. And I say we, Donald Trump is an idiot and a monster, and I go, no love for him. But guys, what would we do if they killed our top guys? We would retaliate even if we despise them. My God, if they killed Trump or our top general or Pompeo, well, of course we would counterattack. Of course we would, no matter how much we can't stand Trump or Pompeo. So of course Iran's gonna do the same. And when our people are killed, it is Donald Trump's fault. They will lie to you 1,000 times and say that he didn't start it. But he did start it. It is a fact, and we know it.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.